The heart attack that ultimately led to William Frawley's death occurred on Hollywood Boulevard on the evening of March 3, 1966. Frawley was most known for his role as Fred Mertz, the irritable character on the television show I Love Lucy. On the other side of town, his former co-star and longtime adversary, Vivian Vance, was having dinner with her closest friends. Upon receiving the news, she proceeded to lift her glass and announce, "Champagne for everyone," while smiling and raising a toast to the occasion. The reaction was unexpected, especially for those who were familiar with the famed enmity between the two of them. However, what was the reason for their intense animosity, and what does their narrative tell us about the underlying dynamics that lie behind one of the most renowned duos in the history of television? I Love Lucy is perhaps the first thing that comes to mind when you think about the amusing antics that Lucy and Ricky Ricardo are known for. Nevertheless, there is no doubting the enchantment that Fred and Ethel Mertz, who were their landlords and best friends, possessed. The popularity of the show was largely due to the contributions of Fred, who was portrayed by William Frawley, and Ethel, who was brought to life by Vivian Vance. As if they were an elderly married couple, they argued with each other and had the ability to make us laugh, perhaps even more than Lucy and Ricky themselves may have. On the other hand, things were not as lovely off-screen. It was impossible for William Frawley and Vivian Vance to take each other's company. To get a better understanding of why, you need to go back to the beginning, which was a long time before the bright lights of television. A good place to start is with William Frawley. When he appeared on I Love Lucy, he was already 64 years old and had a lifetime of experience under his belt. He was born in 1887, which means that he had accomplished a lot in his life. When Frawley first began his career, he was a performer in vaudeville, which was a type of variety show that featured a wide range of acts, including comedy, song and dance performances, and more. He was great at making other people laugh, and he was a performer who cherished the stage. In the 1920s, he was already performing on Broadway when he was cast in major productions such as Mary. To demonstrate that he was more than just a witty guy, he even entered the world of theater in the 1930s with the production of 20th Century. Soon after that, Hollywood got in touch with us. In 1916, Frawley made a few appearances in silent films, but it wasn't until the 1930s that he began to pursue a career in the film industry professionally. When he finally did, he was able to secure a permanent job as a character actor. It is possible that you will recall him from the film Miracle on 34th Street, in which he played the role of Judge Harper's political consultant. Frawley brought his rough and charming personality to the performance. Over the course of his career, he has been in a wide variety of films, including comedies, dramas, musicals, and even westerns. It didn't matter if he was playing a baseball manager in Alibi Ike or an insurance investigator in My Home in San Antone. He had a knack for portraying people that were straightforward and uncompromising. On the other hand, by 1951, Hollywood was coming less frequently. Frawley had appeared in more than 100 pictures, but his work wasn't coming in. A savior appeared in the form of I Love Lucy. Frawley pounced at the chance to play Fred Mertz, the irritable landlord, when he learned that Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball were casting for a new sitcom. He was thrilled to be offered the role. In a risky move for someone she had only a passing acquaintance with, he called Lucille Ball directly and requested her to play the role. Ball and Arnaz were of the opinion that he was flawless, but CBS was not as convinced. It was well known that Frawley was a big drinker and somewhat untrustworthy throughout his life. Arnaz presented him with a choice. If he made even one mistake, he would be fired. Unbelievably, Frawley was able to pull through and succeed. He never showed up intoxicated, taught himself his lines in a short amount of time, and rapidly became one of the most trustworthy members of the ensemble. Let's go on to the next topic, which is Vivian Vance, the woman who would eventually become his on-screen wife and his off-screen adversary. Vance was born in 1909, making her 22 years younger than Frawley. Her journey to popularity was distinct from Frawley's at the time. The 1930s saw her begin her career on Broadway in the chorus lines, and she eventually worked her way up to supporting roles. Being an understudy for the famous Ethel Merman in the production of Anything Goes was one of her most significant opportunities. In the end, Vance was able to secure a prominent part in the musical Let's Face It, in which she shared the stage with Danny Kaye and Eve Arden. The combination of her singing voice and her talent for comedy made her an obvious choice for a career in musical theater. In an effort to establish himself in the film industry, Vance relocated to California in the late 1940s. Despite the fact that she had roles in a few films such as The Secret Fury and The Blue Veil, her career in the film industry did not take off. She was apprehensive to try out for the role of Lucy on I Love Lucy when the opportunity presented itself. Despite the fact that she was unsure whether or not she wanted to portray a dowdy landlord, Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball saw that she had character. Vivian Vance was unexpectedly transformed into Ethel Mertz after she performed well at the audition. Fred and Ethel Mertz were the epitome of an unusual pair when they appeared on TV. The difference between Fred and Ethel was that Ethel was fiery and good-hearted, with just enough sass to keep Fred in check. Fred was stingy, irritable, and occasionally plain unpleasant. The chemistry between them was very strong. They might get into a quarrel one minute and then turn around and come up with a brilliant plan the next. They had a lot of fans. One could easily fall into the trap of thinking that they were an elderly married couple who had spent decades getting on one another's nerves. On the other hand, the situation was rather different off-screen. There was an instantaneous escalation of animosity between Frawley and Vance. To begin, the concept of Vance being partnered with someone who was 22 years older than her was offensive to her. Reportedly, she stated that he appeared to be more similar to her father than to her spouse. When Frawley overheard her comments, he never let it go because he was not exactly the type of person who was in a position to forgive. From that point forward, their relationship with one another was, at best, frosty. Frawley has numerous complaints. He was of the opinion that Vance was conceited and took offense to the fact that she looked down on him. He referred to her as that woman and made jokes about her behind her back. He also made snarky remarks about her. Vance, on the other hand, did not hesitate to show her distaste for the situation. The prospect of working with that stubborn-headed little Irishman one-on-one was something that she dreaded, so she went through the scripts to see how many scenes she had with him. In spite of their hostility toward one another, Frawley and Vance were both superb professionals. They were present. They were successful, and they gave performances that will be remembered forever. Nobody in the audience had any reason to suspect anything. In many respects, their arguing and bantering appeared to be quite real, which is why it felt so real. There is a certain irony in the fact that two individuals who, in real life, could not stand each other, became one of the most beloved couples on television. A pivotal moment in their professional relationship occurred when Desi Arnaz made an offer to produce a spin-off show for them. With Lucy and Ricky out of the picture, the goal was to concentrate on Fred and Ethel. The friction that existed between Frawley and Vance was irrelevant to him, since he was all in. He saw dollar signs. But Vance did not agree. She could not even fathom the possibility of spending more time with Frawley, let alone constructing an entire show based on the chemistry between them. Without Lucy and Ricky, she believed the characters would not be able to function properly, and she was unwilling to take the chance. The project was ruined as a result of her action, which further worsened the gulf between them. Vance and Frawley were eager to go their separate ways by the time the fourth season of I Love Lucy came to a close. The next sitcom that Frawley appeared in was called My Three Sons, and he played a character that was similar to a grandfather. On The Lucy Show, Vance appeared alongside Lucille Ball once again. However, she asked that a stipulation be included in her contract stating that Frawley would never make an appearance on the show. Due to the intensity of their rivalry, even after many years had passed, they were unable to be in the same room together. With the passage of time, Frawley and Vance's animosity only got more severe, despite the fact that they had spent years working together to create one of the most beloved on-screen duos in entertainment history. By the time the second season of I Love Lucy came to a conclusion, their animosity had reached its zenith, and neither of them had any interest in continuing to pretend that they could tolerate the other. As a person who was known for his abrasiveness and his propensity to harbor resentment, Frawley brought his resentment of Vance with him wherever he went. While this was going on, Vance was not exactly letting the past be forgotten anyway. When Frawley was working on the set of My Three Sons, he did not hold back when it came to opening out about his sentiments regarding his former co-star. While he was receiving a visit from a high-ranking military officer, he was once questioned about what Vance's true personality was like. Frawley did not waste any time in delivering his infamous slur, which consisted of saying that she was a miserable C. Even though it was shocking to everyone who heard it, those who knew him well understood that it was nothing out of the ordinary. Frawley was not the type of person to hold back his remarks, and when it came to Vance, his resentment understood no limitations. Naturally, the anger was not directed in a single direction. During the early years of their time working together on the set of I Love Lucy, Frawley had the opportunity to overhear Vance making derogatory remarks about him, by accident. During their time together, she referred to him as that old man and expressed her skepticism that viewers would ever be able to accept them as a couples. The original pain that Frawley experienced never went away, and he always found a way to have his revenge. Throughout the course of the series, he persistently advocated for lines that made fun of Ethel's appearance or implied that she was annoying and bothersome. It was a means of retribution for Frawley to do so. Frawley, on the other hand, was grossly underestimating Vance's ability to reverse her position. The tongue of Vance was sharp and his wit was rapid. As soon as she arrived on set, she did not hesitate to shoot back, giving as good as she got. She would add small barbs to scenes such as calling Fred Old Fat Freddy, and she would play up Ethel's irritation with her husband in a way that seemed to viewers to be a little too real. It was a war of wills behind the scenes, but it was worth every penny in terms. The feud persisted even after the cameras had ceased rolling their footage. Frawley was enthusiastic about the notion of a Fred and Ethel spin-off series following the success of I Love Lucy, which was proposed by Desi Arnaz. Because he was aware of the possibility of receiving a consistent income, he was not going to let his feelings for Vance get in the way of his decision. When Vance, on the other hand, took swift action to shut it down. She categorically refused to collaborate with him ever again, stating that she could not fathom the possibility of working on a full series without Lucy and Ricky to provide a sense of equilibrium. On the other hand, the reality was that she simply could not stand Frawley, and that she would not put herself through any more years of having to negotiate with him. Frawley never forgave her for the decision that she made, which resulted in the spin-off being canceled before it had even gotten off the ground. After many years had passed since the release of I Love Lucy, Frawley continued to harbor a grudge against Vance. He was quick to disregard her abilities, make fun of her weight, and take advantage of any opportunity to put her down. Moreover, it wasn't just a matter of minor insults. Frawley's replies made it quite evident that there was no love lost when she was talked about in interviews or when fans asked him about her. At one point in time, it was said that he stated that the day he would be the happiest of his life would be the day that he would no longer have to come across her name. When William Frawley passed away on March 3, 1966, it marked the end of a career that was filled with remarkable performances and a legacy in television that will be remembered for a lifetime. After celebrating his 79th birthday just a few days earlier, he passed away as a result of a severe heart attack that occurred when he was walking down Hollywood Boulevard. The revelation did not come as a complete surprise to those who were familiar with him. For a long time, Frawley had been struggling with health problems, and he was infamous for his heavy drinking lifestyle. Despite this, his death has left a gaping hole in the entertainment industry that cannot be denied. The contributions that Frawley made to the world of television and movies were recognized by a significant number of his contemporaries. A full-page advertisement was placed in the trade journals by Desi Arnaz, who had engaged him for the role of Lucy in I Love Lucy. The ad simply read, "Buenas noches, amigo." Good night, friend. When many people in Hollywood believed that Frawley was too untrustworthy to hire, it was a fitting farewell from someone who had taken a chance on him but ultimately decided to hire him. In addition to Arnaz, Fred McMurray and Don Fedderson, who were both co-stars and producers on Frawley's My Three Sons, served as pallbearers at his burial when he passed away. Even Lucille Ball, who and Frawley were known to have a number of notable disagreements, expressed her sorrow over his passing and referred to him as one of the greatest character actors of all time. Fan recollections of Frawley are not the only thing that he left behind for his followers. In recognition of his contributions in the film industry, he was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. His depiction of Fred Mertz continues to be regarded as one of the most memorable supporting roles in the history of television. Memorabilia from the television show I Love Lucy, including his frog costume from the episode Hippity Hoppity, is still on display at the Lucille Ball Desi Arnaz Center in Jamestown, New York, even to this day. Despite the fact that Frawley appears to have been a grumpy and difficult individual in real life, it is evident that his talent has left an unforgettable impression.